The US dollar is on the verge of a massive move, so in this video I'm going to show you how that could affect the euro, the pound, the Australian dollar, and also gold for next week. So my name is Justin Bennett, full-time trader and founder of Daily Price Action. As always, all of this is my opinion only and not financial advice. So looking at the DXY 4-hour time frame, the structure is pretty much the same as what we talked about last week. However, there has been one significant development at the end of last week, and that comes in the form of a trendline break. So I made a video last week talking about how you can incorporate trend lines with your SMC trading, contrary to what many people will tell you, what many SMC traders will tell you. And you can see that here. So this is the trend line that I made a video about on Thursday. And at the time, the DXY was holding below it through here. So resistance through here, you can see we got the close above and then the retest here on Friday. Now, this retest was significant and also pretty easy to read, if I'm being honest, because looking at the 1 minute time frame, you can see that back here, this is that trend line. So this was the retest. And I'm going to show you here in about 1 minute how you can confirm any type of bottom like this, and this can be your entry model for any type of market on any time frame. And the way you do that is you essentially just walk this down. Okay, we talk about this all the time where you see highs and lows like this back here, you see lower highs and lower lows. Every time the market takes out a low, all you do is move this level up here down. Okay, and you say, this is the high I'm watching, the market has to take this out. You can see back here, we took out this low, so that makes this high the one to watch. You can see we then took out this low over here, making this one the one to watch. Okay, so all you do is walk this lower and wait for the market to show its hand. So over here, what you can see is that off of this low here, right, we had the BOS below, and then we had the close above. And since that time, looking here at the 1 minute time frame, you can see where it has been a nice trend since that time. And this isn't just hindsight stuff too. I actually called this out in Discord in real time. So you can see that this one right here is the one that I pointed out to members talking about. This was the trend line that we've discussed previously. And then we did have that shift here on the 1 minute time frame to help confirm the bottom. Okay. And if you do want to join us in Discord, first of all, there's a link right here on your screen that's going to give you a free SMC course. This is the strategy that I use to trade full time with SMC. So that is completely free. Beyond that link though, if you do want to join us in Discord for my help with your trading, seeing my trades live, also getting those trade setups, then you will have the chance to join us in there through an offer beyond this link that you see here on the screen. If you don't see it here on the screen, check out the pinned comment or in the description of this video. So again, this is how you confirm a bottom. Very, very simple stuff. Okay. So you can do this in every single, time frame, any kind of market. This is just a simple change of character here on the DXY. And the reason that this worked though is partly because of that change of character, but really more so to do with the fact that this right here was that retest of the trend line. Okay. And look, following my video on Thursday, I had somebody in the comments say that trend lines are just imaginary and that they don't work. And, look, my response is that every line on your chart is imaginary until enough traders respect them, and then they're useful. Okay. And that's the case with every single level on your chart. And there isn't a person watching this that can't tell me that these two levels right here, okay, which are really just trend lines that run parallel to each other. This is a channel. And then this level here, there's no person watching this video who can tell me that this right here is not significant, that the market is not in some way respecting this channel. Okay, so as I always say, if it helps you with your trading, use it. Don't rely on other, so-called gurus out there to tell you what you should and should not use. If it helps you, use it. All right, so looking at the daily time frame for the DXY, I am still bullish on the US dollar, guys, point blank. And that's simply because you can see back here following the downtrend in 2025, we had the market go sideways from basically July 2025 all the way through to the beginning of 2026, giving us this BOS here below the lows. Now that made this up here the external high, which you can see that on the daily time frame, we did recently close above. Okay, so this close right here on the daily is significant because this shows acceptance above that external high. In other words, this right here is a change of character on the daily time frame. So as I mentioned last week, even if we had the market pulling back further down here into this imbalance, down here in this region, following this close above, following that change of character, this right here was bullish for the DXY. Okay, and I'm not a fundamental trader, guys, but you can see how this also just aligns with everything else we're seeing out there in the world right now. Okay, so what could we get for next week? Well, we do have an imbalance back here in this region. So really this pocket right through here, you can see we do have an imbalance. There is a chance that we do see a pullback there next week, especially with all the volatility out there in the markets. I mean, I think you've got to be also, as a side note, you've got to be really careful holding over the weekend right now, guys. Your stop loss is not going to protect you from a weekend gap. I just want to make that, very clear. If you have a 30 pip stop and the market gap's 100 pips against you, then you are on the hook for that 100 pips, not the 30. Okay. But look, I think next week, if we were to get a move down here, quick wick down here to clear out some early longs, then that could make a lot of sense. Otherwise though, what I'm looking for here, or at least paying attention to right now, is, the fact that looking at the 1 hour time frame, and you can see this a lot more clearly on something like the euro, which we'll talk about next. But this down here off of this low, this right here is technically a BOS. Okay, so within this short-term downtrend for the euro, what you'll notice is that we do have a BOS right here. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about labeling this as an internal BOS. I don't want to get you guys confused. We're just going to call it a BOS because that's what it is. Now, looking here, the external high is this one up here. So this move on Friday is significant because we are getting just barely the market closing above here. Okay. Now, this is very close, right? I would like to see something a little bit more convincing, either later on Friday or maybe on Monday, to give us that full change of character up here. But what I'm basically looking for now is if this is going to hold up for next week and we get something more convincing up here, then if this is going to be the top, if this is going to be the external high, what I'm looking for is, a push down here into discount. And what you'll notice here, and I'm not saying that this will happen, but what you'll notice is that we do have this imbalance back here that is right there in discount and also lines up with the optimal trade entry, that area between the 79% and 62% retracement. So this kind of points to, once again, that if we were to get a pullback from the US dollar down here into this region, okay, then that could be compelling for a long next week. Now you might be asking yourself, okay, well, what about this trend line, right? If we close below here, wouldn't that be bearish? And it could be on the higher time frames, but there's nothing to say that we can't get a rounded retest of this next week and then just get a wick below it. Okay. And I'm not saying again that it will happen. That is just one scenario to keep an eye on, especially with everything going on in the world right now. All right. So that's what I'm looking for. I mean, really, again, this change of character is a little bit too close right now in the hourly. I would like to see something a little bit more convincing above here, but you can see where we did technically get this close above here on the 1 hour time frame. Okay. So looking at the euro next, we do have basically the inverse of the DXY chart. We talked about this channel last week as well. You can see the market was coming off of resistance up here. We did have an internal shift here, an internal change of character. However, it was made a little bit more difficult to read because of that candle that we had on Monday. So basically this rally, this candle right here, made it a little bit more difficult to read a lower time frame change of character. And this, once again, too, if you look at the 8 hour time frame, this was part of the video I made on Thursday talking about trend lines with SMC. And you can see that right here, right, we did get a convincing close below, and then you can see this retest here on Friday. So once again, trend lines, yes, they're imaginary, right, to begin with. But if enough traders respect them, then they become useful. And if they're useful, then why not use it, right? And it's probably because a lot of SMC traders frown upon it. It's like considered taboo to talk about diagonal levels if you are trading SMC. But once again, you can't tell me that this right here would not be helpful to have on your chart, or you can't tell me that this is not being respected in any way, shape, or form here from this market, right? The same thing with this trend line. Now, I'm not saying that it's always going to work, right? Nothing out there, no tool out there is going to be 100%. But this right here is, useful if you do it right, okay? So with that in mind, with the euro, where could we be headed here with regard to this market? So what I talked about previously was the fact that very much like the DXY, we do have a change of character. Now, this one was a lot more convincing, and this change of character on the daily time frame actually occurred after basically over a year, okay, of a rally. I mean, the last time we saw a change of character was back here in 2024. So to me, this right here is significant. This change of character is significant. And even if we had seen the euro move up here into this imbalance, I was looking for shorts. Okay. And I said, a couple weeks ago that I thought this seemed less likely. And then in the last video, I said this, could be likely given what I'm seeing. And look, guys, I'm not here to forecast. These are not predictions. These videos are never predictions. And the system that I've created, it doesn't matter if we get this or we get this, okay? Because the system I've created is going to look for shorts regardless. And I only traded 7 times last month in March with the system that I use. And all of those trades were shared in real time in Discord with entry, stop loss, and take profit. So it's full transparency. Out of those 7 trades, I had an over 80% win rate. I had 1 loss out of those 7 trades. And I'm not saying that to brag or to flex. I'm not saying that it's going to be like that every single month, But even with all the indecision that we've had here from these markets, March was still a very profitable month for me. So I just want to be clear that these videos are not forecasts. These videos are just me pointing out what I'm seeing at that moment, and that can change in a hurry, especially in these market conditions. Okay, so with the euro, guys, what I'm looking at here, we have the change of character. So I'm bearish on the euro, regardless of whether we see, you know, this as the top here or we get this up here. Although, in my opinion, this is looking more likely as the top for the euro. I could be wrong there. And like I said, things can change in an instant. However, what I think that we could see from this market, and I made I talked about this before in the last video, was this candle right here. Because if you look at the 4-hour time frame and the hourly time frame, I'm not going to go into it, but this is basically just one big inefficiency back here from this market. So right now I have 1.1290 marked off on my chart as a potential target for this market. So I do think that if we are going to see continuation from the euro lower, I do think that this area down here makes a lot of sense. Now, it could be a bit lower. Okay, I'm not going to say that it's going to be this exact level. It could be all the way down here toward this wick. So what I'm going to say is this region down here, okay, if we see continuation from this market, right, this region down here is going to be the one that I'm watching. Now, in terms of market structure, okay, what am I looking at for the euro? Well, for me, so here on the hourly time frame, for me, what I'm watching, and let's just go ahead and hide this here for a second. What I'm watching is this right here. So on this high, you can see where we did have a BOS. And this is a BOS within this recent uptrend. Okay, so from this low down here, you can see higher highs and higher lows. So that makes this down here the protected low. And this is where this, move that we saw on Monday, right? This is where it makes it a little bit more difficult because you have this massive range here where you have to wait basically for the market to give you the close all the way down here before you identify a change of character. But that's the way it goes. That's what we're dealing with. So this low down here, if we take this out, then this becomes a change of character, in which case I'm looking for shorts. Now, where I'm looking for shorts is going to depend on what we get from the price action on the way down, okay? And this is where I can't really talk to, speak to exactly what I'm looking for next week until I see the price action on a move below this low. Because if we get this here in a very, sharp fashion, then of course I'm looking for a move up there to mitigate that imbalance before I look for shorts. Okay, if we don't, and there's not a lot of, an imbalance up here, then it could just be a case of where we get the close below here and we just continue to grind lower, okay? So it's really going to depend on the price action, the way it looks, if we get the close below this low, but that's what it's going to take to really give us that change of character and expose lower levels like this low down here. All right, so bottom line for this market, okay? So this low down here would be my first target if we get the change of character below this low here. So first target, and then the second target is down here, okay? So now if we take out this high next week, if we were to take out this high, and just continue this uptrend, then of course that would be different. And at that time, if we take out this high up here, then I'm really looking at this imbalance back here for the euro, okay? But as of right now, given the price action I'm seeing out there from the DXY, it does kind of look more likely like this is the top. But again, these videos are not forecasts, guys. This is never about forecasting or predicting a market. You do not have to do that to be profitable in the markets. Okay, so I want to be very clear about that it's about having a plan, it's about having rules and then reacting to what's on the chart. It is never about forecasting. All right, so let's take a look here at GBPUSD. All right, and if you guys are enjoying the content, if you're finding this helpful, then be sure to subscribe to the channel and also hit that bell icon. All right, so with regard to the pound, basically we had a case where if you look at the 4-hour time frame, we had a BOS back here making this level up here, this high, the protected high, okay? So within this downtrend, this was the protected high, which never got taken out. So this entire time, despite the fact that it has been very sideways, you can see we had the BOS down here confirming sellers remain in control. We never took out this high up here. So this right here was always bearish for the pound. Now, I do expect, obviously, for the market to find some support down here at these lows. However, I do also think that if we were to get a close below here, then of course we do have a new BOS, and I'm looking for shorts still against any buy side imbalances. Now, in terms of where this market could be going, if we take a look here at the daily, just looking at this chart too, I'll tell you this, when you get something like this here, where you get the market giving you this pullback, right? And then you have this displacement out of it, and then you come down here and you take out this entire block, okay? And then you're holding below it over here. This right here is just a bearish structure, guys. I mean, there's nothing really bullish about this. If we had seen the pound come up here, give us this displacement out of here, come back here, mitigate this imbalance and then continue higher, then that would have been different. But this right here, the fact that we have now basically negated this entire move that we saw out of this range, right? This to me is a bearish stance for this market. So with that in mind, we do have an imbalance back here as well for the pound. So basically these two lows right back here in late 2025, this is kind of my target now for this market. So if we're going to get a new BOS next week, then again, I'm looking for shorts on any imbalances that form as part of that BOS. Like the euro, like I said there, I can't say exactly where I'm looking for just because it depends on the price action, how this unfolds from current levels down here toward this low. If we get the break, it depends on how this forms. If we get something, very quick and aggressive, then I'm looking for shorts on any imbalances that form. Okay. If we just grind lower though, below the low, then that could be just a case where we get this market just grinding lower, over the coming days. Okay. But all in all, guys, I am still bearish here. I mean, nothing really bullish to be, or nothing to be bullish about on this market right now. I do think that these lows in late 2025 should come under pressure here over the coming days, just given the look of this overall chart and also just the market structure that we've seen develop over the past few weeks. Okay, and one last thing too here, what you'll notice on the 4 hour as well is that there was also, believe it or not, off the lows down here, there was also a trend line here for the pound. Now, in my opinion, it was this right here. Okay, so you can see that off of this low, we've got this closing price, we've got this wick, and then we've got this low here, we've got the break, and then notice what was retested on Friday. And again, this is where people will tell me, oh, that's imaginary, you can draw it any which way. And it is imaginary, again, until enough traders respect it, and then it's useful. As far as where exactly you draw that, like why is it not down here, right? And it could be, there's multiple places you could draw this. However, for me, I always go for the most touches possible without cutting off candle bodies, okay? That is my number one rule. And what you'll notice is that drawing it up here gives me this low right here without cutting off this close. So I'm good there. This right here is the placement. In my opinion, this is the most valid placement for this trend line here. And you can see where this did work out on Friday. Okay, so let's look at the Australian dollar next. And this too, again here guys, was another case of a trend line. I made a video on this one last week as well, specifically talking about the Australian dollar, how we could get a move down here toward this green box, which I'll explain here in a moment. But the trend line that was in play, if we look at the 1 hour time frame, what I was looking at here was this right here. So off of the close, this 1 hour close, I had a trend line drawn through here. So once again, guys, this comes back to the most touches without cutting off candles. So at the time, I want to take you back to the time when I made this video. So back when I made this video, we were here, okay? We were coming off of this level. And what I said there was that if we were going to get a return toward this imbalance up here, then we should hold on to these lows. Okay, we should continue to carve these higher lows down here and come up here toward this imbalance, at which time I'd be looking for shorts. And what I said there too is that if we got acceptance below this trend line, then it probably meant that we were headed lower. Okay, so that's what I said in that video. If you go back there and watch it, that's exactly what I said. Now let's move this over here. This was when I made that video, and this is the placement of this trend line. And you can see right here, we got the close below. Notice resistance, right? Multiple candles through here, resistance. And then you see, track it forward, and we see the Australian dollar moving lower and still lower on Friday. So again, another case where a trend line, guys, something as simple as this combined with market structure. Remember, what I talked about in that video too was that this was a 1 hour change of character. Okay, this was the first change of character, the first bearish change of character for the Australian dollar since this rally began back here. So this entire time, we did not get the market taking out these external lows, okay, until this right over here. Until last week, early last week, we got this close right here, giving us that change of character, which meant I was looking for shorts. And again, this trend line could have got you into that short if you had seen that video. And again, if that aligns with the way you trade. So looking at the daily time frame, why do I have this box down here? I have this box down here for a couple of reasons. One, because it's the bottom of this channel. Okay, so off this channel down here, you can see all these highs up here and these highs through this region as well. Now, this box obviously aligns with the bottom of this channel. Furthermore, what you'll notice here is that we have displacement. Okay, so out of this range back here, we had displacement out of this, a very aggressive move out of this range, all of this through here is an imbalance, and as of now, it is unmitigated. So this area down here, in my opinion, the bottom of this channel, also in an unmitigated imbalance back here, this is where I'm looking for the Australian dollar to potentially target over the coming days, and maybe a bounce from here, although I would certainly not be buying this without some type of very strong conviction on the chart. Okay, now this dotted line through here, I talked about this last week, but if we are going to get this market, bouncing in the near term, and again, look, I would only be looking for a short-term bounce from this, but you can see that during this run-up, during this displacement that we had here on the hourly, you can see where we do have consolidation like this back here. Okay, so areas like this and areas like this, we're likely to see buyers come out and defend this, but given the look of the chart, I would expect something short-term from this. Certainly not a buy from levels like this down here. Okay, if nothing else, this is an area to see some relief and potentially to get short again toward this region, in my opinion. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at from the Australian dollar. I mean, pretty straightforward here from this market. Now, one last thing too, before we move on to gold, is another thing I mentioned in that video last week was that we do have symmetry off of these highs and lows. So as part of this change of character, if you notice from this high up here, off of these highs and these lows down here, you can see where this area does line up to the bottom of this channel, lines up with this horizontal down here as well. So possibly early next week, sometime, maybe some relief here from this market to get a move back here toward imbalances like this. Okay, so possibly again, this area down here, maybe an area to look for to reload shorts on a bounce from this region, because again, you do have that horizontal area of consolidation. Plus you've also got the bottom of this channel as well that could become a factor. Okay, so just something to keep an eye on early next week, possibly a bounce there to reload shorts. But I do think overall, I do think that this is where, the Australian dollar is most likely headed, down there below 68. Okay, that's 0.68. All right, so looking at gold next. All right, so this market right here, what I talked about in Discord last week, in fact, I did actually mention 2 trades last week that were non-SMC related. They were both profitable, mentioned them in real time in Discord as well. But this is the channel right here that I referenced in Discord. You can see the lows down here, we've got the highs up here. So right now I am looking for some potential relief from gold. Obviously it depends on what the US dollar does next week, but the 2 setups that I mentioned to members, I'll just run through that quickly. The first one, again, this was non-SMC related. It was just, I saw it at the time, I saw the imbalances, and it was this right here. So this consolidation right here that we saw, this was basically the market just getting squeezed into a triangle pattern. And this area up here was the area that I identified, this area and this area, as potential imbalances that could get mitigated, which we did see through here. And then about a day later, we actually had something as simple as a trend line break through here. So off of these lows up here toward this level, we did have a break of this trend line, which again, I announced in Discord in real time. And this down here was my target, this imbalance from this move out of this range. Okay. And what you'll notice is that if I move over here, you can see where that was also tagged. Okay. Now I did not trade these, but I did announce them as potential setups for members, if they wanted to trade that, right? Obviously never financial advice, but I did see it develop on the chart and it played out really nicely. So really those were the only 2 gold setups I mentioned last week in Discord, but again, they were profitable. Okay, so for next week, what I am watching from this market so far, I want to be clear too that we really don't have a clear structure shift here from this market, because what you'll notice is that in my opinion, the last really external high within this move lower, or really protected high, is going to be this one up here. And the reason for that is that all of this right here is just too internal for me to call an actual change of character. So really from this high up here all the way down here to this low, all of this here is just internal for gold. So in order to get a true shift in the market structure and target higher levels, we're going to have to see gold take out this level up here. Okay, this would be the level to take out to give us a true shift in this chart, just because again we do have this BOS back here. So this would be your external high or protected high, and then above this, that could give us a potential near-term bottom for gold. Now, one other thing I do want to mention though is that if you look back here, and this is not saying it will happen, but if the US dollar were to stay strong next week, then one thing that I am watching is, this area down here, this is also an inefficiency for this market below this low. So this entire region down here, even something as simple as this 1 hour wick right down here in this area, this is something that could be retested from by gold next week if we get a stronger US dollar. Okay, so if yields stay strong, if the US dollar stays strong, then I am not discounting a move down here toward this inefficiency from gold potentially before we get a bounce. Okay, obviously not that sharp. I mean, it could happen that way, who knows, but I'm not expecting that. But I do think this area down here around 4120 could potentially come under some pressure next week, just to kind of mitigate this inefficiency that we saw develop last week. So as for the technical catalyst that could make that happen, it's unclear as of right now. Just keep in mind too, though, that we do have, as far as these inefficiencies up here, there are still several inefficiencies up here for gold in these regions up here too. So we could see those targeted over the coming weeks, but right now this market is very sideways. As always though, I will be sure to update members in Discord how this plays out early next week. Depending on the situation at the time, it's very difficult for me to identify that now, just because the market is still very sideways. So I hope this video helped. If it did, subscribe to the channel. Also check out this link right here that's going to give you that free SMC course that shows you exactly how I trade. Beyond that, you can join us in Discord for my help with your trading Monday through Friday. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again on Monday.